Yeah. Well, I'm lucky for my fingers, a lucky bed to sleep, a lucky thoughts to linger, lucky as I leave. Sometimes I turn my mind to days before we broke in two. But I'm lucky, so lucky for the times I spent with you. Hello and welcome to the Lo-Fi Lounge. This is Chris LeRoy.
It is green, cool beneath our feet. Honey, it's sweet. It's sweet on the bread. The sea and the shore, forever entwined. They all sing the same song. Please come down the coast. Down your good friends, bring down the madmen, bring the old tigers, bring down the young Turks, bring out the seers, the Confederate dreamers. They all sing the same song. Please come down the coast. Come
Can you imagine coming up with an idea and it lasts for 3 years? Can you imagine 156 straight weeks of the Lo-Fi Lounge? And that's exactly where we are today. Thank you to all the bands, all the great interviews, all the great partners and players who've filled out these 156 shows. But mostly thank you, the folks who watch Lo-Fi Lounge and give us feedback, because that's the impetus week to week to week that keeps the show rolling. We're going to share bits and pieces of some of our favorite moments for our 3rd year anniversary. Thank you so much.
The late Frank Zappa was known as one of the most iconoclastic rock musicians around. He was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995. But not everyone is aware of the fact that he was a resident of the Inland Empire from 1960 to 1965. In the spring semester of 1960, 19-year-old Claremont resident Frank Zappa took music theory classes at Chaffey College in Alta Loma, California. This was his only formal music training. The rest of it was self-taught by spending endless hours in music libraries. Zappa met Kay Sherman at Chaffey College, and they began living together in the summer of 1960 in Ontario, California. They married in December of that year. Kay got a job as a secretary at the First National Bank of Ontario. Frank found employment at a greeting card studio in Claremont. Other IE jobs he had were encyclopedia salesman, jewelry salesman, and window dresser. He also was employed for a time in advertising as a copywriter. But music was always the driving force in his life, as can be seen on Zappa's business cards of the early 1960s. To augment his income, Zappa was a member of various Inland Empire bands, most notably Joe Perino and the Mellotones. Zappa described his experience as a member of the band in his 1989 autobiography, The Real Frank Zappa Book. He wrote, "I was working weekends with a four-piece lounge band called Joe Perino and the Mellotones at Tommy Sandy's Club Sahara in San Bernardino. The management allowed us to play one twist number per night. The rest of the night we were supposed to play Happy Birthday, Anniversary Waltz, and On Green Dolphin Street. I wore a white dinner jacket and bow tie and black pants and sat on a bar stool and played the electric guitar. I got so sick of it that I quit, put the guitar in the case, stuck it behind the sofa, and didn't touch it again for 8 months." Zappa, in the meantime, had become acquainted with Paul Buff, who owned and operated PAL Studios, a small recording facility in Cucamonga, California. It was there that Zappa apprenticed and learned the ins and outs of recording music. Zappa's presence was felt on many Inland Empire recordings made at Cucamonga's PAL Studios. For example, Zappa was the engineer during 10 recordings that Rutland surf band, the Tornadoes, made there in the early 1960s. In March 1963, Zappa talked his way into an appearance on the syndicated Steve Allen Show. Zappa appealed to Allen's love of offbeat guests and was invited to perform on the program. Zappa said he could play a bicycle like an instrument. Allen and his band joined in on the fun. In May 1963, Zappa wrote, produced, and played on Brian Lord's recording of The Big Surfer. Lord was a DJ on San Bernardino radio station KMEN. The Big Surfer was a parody of President John F. Kennedy conducting a dance contest at a beach party. The single ended with Lord mimicking the president saying,
"Well, as the winners of our dance contest, you will receive an all-expense-paid trip as the first members of the Peace Corps to be sent to Alabama."
The record received considerable airplay on Cayman, of course, but not on rival station KFXM. In late May 1963, the recording got the attention of Capitol Records, and they paid $7,000 to pick it up for national distribution. Sadly, Capitol recalled the single after only 2 weeks, when civil rights activist Medgar Evers was assassinated in mid-June 1963. The label felt that the 45's reference to the South would not play well in that area. The November 1963 assassination of President Kennedy further sealed the fate of any future release of the 45. In Part 2, more about Frank Zappa's adventures while living in the Inland Empire.
Kevin Day, take it away.
All right. Well, how you doing, Chris? Glad to be here with you. Yeah, we had an interesting meeting with Toots and The Maytals. It's funny how we got the gig too. We had sent a cassette tape. You know, that's how long ago it was. Well, an intern at Toad's Place, which is a legendary club in New Haven, Connecticut. Everybody's played there. In fact, Bob Dylan's played there, the Stones, you know, you name it. I've seen Cracker and Camper Van Beethoven there. So there was an intern had heard our tape, and this one song that we had been playing since the 80s, my friend Mike Tweedy and I wrote. It was kind of quasi reggae, and so she called me up and asked me if we wanted to open up for Toots and The Maytals. And of course I said, of course, you know, he's a legend, you know, who wouldn't want him? And because she said, well, you guys are reggae, right? And I said, absolutely. So,
Right.
so the funny thing was, what we did was we started practicing all of our songs and changed the beat to play the reggae. And so, yeah, so what happened was that we opened up for him 1 year. That was in 1998. And actually, it was about 6 months later, we opened up for him again. And we're sitting at a table, and the Maytals were doing their sound check. And we're sitting there, and someone walked up behind us, and we kind of felt their presence, and we turned around, and it was Toots Hibbert. You know, he's the godfather of reggae. He's the one that coined the phrase reggae music, music for regular people. You know, I know people think reggae, they think Bob Marley, you know, who's of course also, you know, an amazing legend himself. But so we were all nervous. We got up, we're like, oh, Toots, you know, oh, how are you? He goes, he said, gigglejuice, and I remember you from last year. And he made a fist. He touched his heart, and he said, respect, and he gave us a fist bump. And I'll tell you, we were beside ourselves. We were like, oh my God, Toots remembers us. You know, this is it's 22 years ago. This is a long time ago. And we had one of the greatest shows at Toad's Place. I know some of my fellow crumbs have been to Toad's Place in New Haven, like Jim and Sandra Hostetler. They're from Connecticut. They've been there. Julie Bradlow went to Yale. I know she's probably been to Toad's Place. It was quite an experience for us, you know. And it was, like I said, it was amazing because we're not really a reggae band, you know. We're just like, it was one of those things. And I said, oh, of course we're reggae. Like, yeah.
Rock and roll.
Many people wonder where my secret lies. I'm not cute or built to suit a fashion model size. When I start to tell them, they think I'm telling lies. I say, it's in the reach of my arms, the span of my hips, the stride of my step, the curl of my lips. I'm a woman, phenomenally. I walk into a room just as cool as you please, and to a man the fellows stand or fall down on their knees. Then they swarm around me, a hive of honeybees. I say, it's the fire in my eyes, the flash of my teeth, the swing in my waist, the joy in my feet. I'm a woman, phenomenally. Men themselves have wondered what they see in me. They try so much, but they can't touch my inner mystery. When I try to show them, they say they still can't see. I say, it's in the arch of my back, the sun of my smile, the ride of my breasts, the grace of my style. I'm a woman, phenomenally. Now you understand just why my head's not bowed. I don't shout or jump about or have to talk real loud. When you see me passing, it ought to make you proud. I say, it's in the click of my heels, the bend of my hair, the palms of my hands, the need for my care. Because I'm a woman, phenomenally, phenomenal woman. All you women and me.
My Afternoon with Maya Angelou, 1978. In my last days at the University of California, Riverside, I was a token student representative at an afternoon event at what I remember as the Chancellor's home in the hills behind the college. I know where it is now. On that day, not so much. I had been in San Diego, and I was late already, and stopped at the front campus parking lot to see if I could find directions and to change into black shoes. I was tying my shoes when a black car came up and a woman asked me for directions to the Chancellor's house. I didn't want to seem ill-informed, so I told her I had a fair idea and needed to be there myself to hear some boring presentation, and I offered to guide her there if she would follow my Volkswagen Bug. She did. What should have been a 10-minute spin up the hill lasted about an hour and a half. Every few minutes I would pull over and say, "You see that house by those patch of trees? That's not the Chancellor's house." All the while she was calm and laughed in an unusually deep voice and did not seem to be in any hurry. I figured she didn't mind missing the speaker either. When we did happen upon the home, we walked up to the door, laughing at our aimlessness. We knocked, the door swung open, and she was swept inside by a woman holding a wine glass like she stepped out of a Fellini film. The door was shut in my face. But being a diligent token student, I knocked again and mentioned that I was supposed to be inside, and was granted access with a shrug. The excited group gathered in the living room on sofas and high-back chairs. The Fellini woman proved to be the Chancellor's wife, and in hushed tones announced my traveling companion as Maya Angelou, acclaimed poet and novelist. I sank. She seemed to grow about a half foot. She bowed graciously and settled into a sage sofa. The next 30 minutes, she wove several stories about the challenge of art, the risk of relationships. Her words were music, phrase by phrase, and you had the sense this was not the planned presentation. She started with scenes from her childhood, but quickly moved to how she had recently driven to a college campus and made a new friend. I was mortified as she related turn by turn how I tried to help her find her way. But soon, I was caught up in this wonderful enhanced version of our search for the Chancellor's home, our journey of risk and friendship. The telling was not completely true. There was truth in the foundation, but the embellishment had a creative flourish, an arc, harmonic completeness, like a song written on the spot. I got so caught up in the story I forgot it was about me. She closed by telling the audience that this beautiful young man who stopped tying his shoes to help a stranger was in this room, and introduced me as her dear new friend, Chris. I was stunned, but I welcomed the hors d'oeuvres, an instant celebrity. My shoes were still untied. Thinking about it today, on my afternoon with Maya Angelou, I was given a unique insider's lesson, a gift of creativity. I still have it. Thank you, my friend.
I can't hear you because
No time like the present, right?
got to do it. So what did I say? I said we're having a little get together at Chris's studio.
Yeah.
Was how we invited people to the first one, but then it must have gotten its name in time to label the tapes at least. So yeah, we'll probably have to listen to the tapes to figure out if there's more details on how the name actually got coined. Now I want to know. This is the Conditionz. I already kind of knew about them, but it was, didn't really think I was going to get to see him perform, and I got to see him a couple of times at Five Stocks.
click on there. Welcome everybody to the Lo-Fi Lounge with all my friends. Look at all my friends all in a space. How great is that? And we're here today to talk about a very unique wedding. And Rebecca, tell us about the wedding, the camp-out wedding.
Well, Russell and I had been engaged for almost a year, and we planned to elope. And since we were going to camp out anyway, we called ARIE and said, how hard would it be to elope in California, you know, on our way to camp out? And ARIE said, why don't we do it at camp out?
She was like, well, I could bring it since I'm coming in from LA. I'll just bring a marriage license with me. So she went and picked one up. And our brother Jason, I think, was your witness or something, right? Or he was just there to take some extra pictures. I don't remember.
Hell, you've done so many weddings. It was just the best day of my life. Thank you.
Aww. And a lot of the coordination and planning actually goes down to Trixie.
Rebecca had called me and asked if I would be a maid of honor for her wedding. Of course, I said yes. And then she says, and it's going to be at camp out. And I said, okay, great. And I knew it was going to happen, and we were keeping it a secret. But we didn't really do any planning until she called me on Wednesday before it's Saturday and said, well, it's happening. I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing for music? I don't have any. And so Jason Switzer and my husband, Jeff Leonard, were there. And so I just went ahead and I said, they're doing music. Julie and Judy and Amy, I don't think that we really had anything in advance other than I was like the drill sergeant.
Very good at that.
What I remember is that, as everyone else has said, there really wasn't a whole lot of advanced planning. In fact, my plane landed in LA that Thursday. I was taxiing to the gate. I got a text from Rebecca. And she said, can you keep a secret?
Doing what I had planned to wear on Saturday night too. And I was a little concerned.
Fabulous.
I know I made an announcement. I don't remember what I said. But
It
I
was
gathered
something
everybody.
to the effect of, you know, rounding everyone up and coming to the little house, and there's something you're not going to want to miss.
Right.
And so, you know, herd mentality, people just were like, oh, we're going here now, you know, and we were kind of like, well, come on, guys, come on. And, you know, most of the people didn't even know what they were going to do.
I told the doctor that it was my wedding day. So he gave me a shot of penicillin in the butt.
It's just one of the things that I think is so great about our group is people will come together from all across the US, Canada, and overseas in Britain, I think Scotland too. And they all come together for a common purpose, which is to have communion with music in the desert. After the wedding, Brad Jones wanted to take some photos of Rebecca and Russell just kind of pose dancing as if they had their first dance.
Okay.
And so they went to the side of the cabin, and it was dust and a couple of, you know, bushes and desert things. And right when they got out there for sound check, Rebecca, what happened?
They played our favorite song, New Roman Times.
There you go.
And I think somebody, how did you ever get them to do that, Trixie?
I didn't.
You didn't?
I think it was coincidence.
It was purely coincidence.
Talk to you all, you guys.
Bye.
Talk to you. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye, Rebecca, Julie, Chris, Amy, Trixie. Bye, all.
Like romper room, huh?
Whoops. Lisa?
Fell in love, it was a Tuesday. Another sunny afternoon. Just one look and it was doomsday. I felt your image fill the room. I imagine you beside me. All the words I'd like to say. Throwing stones across the ocean, making promises to you, and trying hard to find a reason for these games I'm going through. Selling loneliness for daydreams, buying sanity from you, seeing everything and nothing in between. Falling faster, but it's never like it seems. I'm feeling love like it's just something from a dream. I think of you, of you. Get this feeling as I watch you. Some disposable designs, and then I think about the reasons and how they're awfully hard to find. Selling loneliness for daydreams, buying sanity from you, seeing everything and nothing in between. Falling faster, but it's never like it seems. I'm feeling love like it's just something from a dream. I think of you. I think of you. I think of you. I think of you.
Thank you. Owen says hi.
What's really strange about these Zoom things is that we often get a close-up of the beard. Welcome. So where are you?
I'm in Redlands, California. Well, you were
Oh
here.
my goodness. I was just, I was just there. I was just playing Joshua Tree.
Oh,
And my good friend Victor Krummenacher is from Redlands.
right.
And there's a studio, I can't remember the name of it, that we play there, and we'll be playing there again sometime soon.
Yeah, that's my studio.
That's your studio.
We took a really fun picture at the end with the crowd. You know,
Yeah, I have a copy of that picture. It's great.
it's a wonder. It's a sort of, that picture sort of says what happened.
Yeah, it was a great night. We need more of them.
And
Lunacy. He said, I really kind of like the 50th anniversary books you've been doing. I said, oh, so what's next? Dark Side of the Moon? And he was like, yeah, a lot of Dadaism in the new book. One of the things that is really interesting about this book, Lunacy, is that I was just not interested in retelling the same story over and over again and, regaling a certain time period and all of that. So, my friend Cork Markeski, who had a band called the 50-Foot Hose back in the day in San Francisco, arguably the first electronic rock band, he was my college teacher at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design, and he played bass and theremin and was really into electronic sound and all of this stuff. And his art is the background on the book cover. When you see the book cover, those are not like just colored lights or something. It's part of a sculpture that he made. And we started talking about Dadaism and comparing Cafe Voltaire to the UFO or the UFO club in London in 1966 that Joe Boyd ran, where Pink Floyd and everybody from the Incredible String Band, the Soft Machine, and Fairport Convention all played this place.
Right.
And things were really getting pretty wild there with Mr. Syd Barrett. And I guess I was really lucky enough to, the interviews that I did for the book were with not the typical kind of people that you expect at all. Marieke from The Fool, who painted Apple Boutique and did the clothes for Wonderwall, the movie, and painted George Harrison's Mini Cooper, and did album covers for the Incredible String Band and all that. She was fantastic to talk to because she just brought you right there, as Pete Brown did, the lyricist for most of Jack Bruce's great songs like White Room and Dance the Night Away. And he was friends with Syd Barrett, so he lived in a house with Syd Barrett and could tell me what was happening on a real day-to-day kind of level. And he was absolutely adamant that LSD destroyed the cultural revolution of the 1960s. That was what led to, of course, Syd's downfall. So it was just such a great ride. I have such an interesting batch of people in this book. I had talked to Hal Wilner about that album in the past. Even Arif Martin is in the book, who was a producer and arranger for Atlantic Records, and Robin Williamson of the Incredible String Band. I had actually talked to Richie Havens at one point about some of the songs from Dark Side of the Moon. So I had these quotes from previous interviews that I could toss in.
But it has some of the soul, again, of the times, because they were listeners. They were listeners.
Well, that's it. Okay, so this is something that will never cease for me. And that is, there was a moment where Miles Davis is playing with his band and he grimaces at the band and he goes like this. He puts his finger to his ear and he's telling them, listen, the music is alive. It's a living, breathing entity. It only became wrapped in plastic and sold as a commodity in recent years. It's always been And that's kind of one of the things that was really beautiful about Dark Side of the Moon, is that this was the first time they shaped an album live, because they played it live for almost a year before they recorded it. They weren't selling records like that
No,
before Dark Side of the Moon.
not even close.
Dark Side of the Moon was make it or break it, man. Now, one of the things that's really interesting for me about doing this book was I found out that he was really influenced by Plastic Ono Band, by John singing the truth, the hard truths.
Yeah.
Right? And so he started to make a list of all these things that he wanted to sing about, and when he thought that the band should, like, confront and talk about. And many of those issues are in the lyrics of Dark Side of the Moon. Eclipse was the great Pink Floyd Kumbaya moment. It's all inclusive. It's almost like, we'll meet again, don't know why, don't know where, don't know when.
Yeah.
It's almost sonically, to me, it's up there with Beethoven's Ninth, the Ode to Joy, in a way. I think that will be a classical piece of music for all time, because it's all inclusive. It's universal. It's a universal symbol.
Yeah.
This album is a universal symbol that goes beyond culture, politics, what have you, religion.
Getting at is that you may have written books about subjects where the subject would actually like to read about it. Ringo doesn't.
You said it, brother. You just said it. Because somebody told me, somebody knew somebody whose daughter was friends with David Gilmour. And I was like, the greatest thing that could happen with this book is that David Gilmour would sit down and read this book and go, wow, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
I'm wearing this Rationale's t-shirt for Dave Mirabella. He and I had a relationship from MySpace era forward. It was based on songs sent back and forth and conversation, and we got to know each other that way. And during the darkest days of the pandemic, he chose to, reach out and post something, some cover of a thing. He knew a billion songs. Every day, shining a light, helping out. Then he started to put some of his new songs up. And he was like a song machine. Every day, just putting some new thing he had just written. And they were powerful, powerful songs. And they meant so much. And they'll mean so much today and in the future. Here's just one of them.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dylan Box. We're very glad to be here again. I'm your co-host, Ryan Harsch.
And I'm Chris LeRoy.
And we have something very special in store for you. This is going to take two hands.
That's right.
But what we have here is Bob Dylan. We got two albums here, but it looks like they're the same. I'll give one to you. And you are correct.
Because it was different. It looked different.
So this one came first. So we have Desire, followed up by Hard Rain. Okay, so both came out in 76.
Yeah. Well, usually I pull
Something in there. Oh,
very small.
that's okay. Remember these?
Yeah. The box says, "The Philosophy of Modern Song with Bob Dylan." I don't know which one of these guys actually is Bob Dylan here in the front. Through this book, there's this kind of spirit of adventure that you could jump into any song like it is a river. Certainly, I'm glad it's here.
Likewise.
All right.
Gonna walk down the dirt road till someone let me ride. Gonna walk down that dirt road. I'm sitting on the train track trying to decide. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a Wednesday night, Radio 63. 4 o'clock, it suddenly came to me. I had no choice, I had to surrender and smile. Because the DJ's forced to my heart to the dial. They said, go Radio City, hey. Radio City. And nonsense plenty to do in this town, that's not really true. They got grills and beers, cigarettes on the ground. Wow, 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 wow. But that's okay. I can take it, I can throw it away. Stay at home nights, listen to the radio play. Well, come on in. Radio City, hey. Radio City, hey. Radio Nowadays, the music can't keep us home. You gotta spend big money for fear of being alone. That's so sad, your spirit's past. DJ's voice said, I'm sorry, this couldn't last. Said, go to Radio City. Radio City, hey. Radio City, hey. Radio City. Nowadays, the music can't keep us home, except for me and Johnny here. You gotta spend big money calls out for radio spiller's pie. And the DJ's voice said, I'm sorry, this couldn't last. Get back to Radio City. Radio City. Radio City. Radio, radio. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody, thank you. First time forever. Thank you. Good night. Danger Duo coming up. Danger Duo.